Hello, my name is Clint Savage, and today I'm going to show you a little demo of how we can do transaction-based provisioning in LinchPin. So to start with that, we want to be able to track our transactions as we go along within a provision component. So I'm going to show you a simple example of how to do a linchpin up with our dummy provisioner, which just doesn't really do anything. It just writes a file out to text. So if I just do linchpin-vvv and I say dummy and I say dummy new, because I have two targets, and that's the dummy and the dummy new target. And those are actually going to provision out. Oh, I forgot to put the word up. So I'll put in up there. And it's going to provision these things. They're going to bring them up, right? So it's going to bring the two nodes or two sets of resources up. So it's going to first do the dummy one and then the dummy new one, or whatever order I had specified. And once that's done, it's going to give us a report. And that's actually what we're really after in this presentation. And it's right there at the bottom. You can see the report, and it shows a bunch of data about the transaction we just performed. The ID for the transaction is 214, and we've got targets dummy new and dummy, and their run IDs, which are corresponding, and unique hashes. These are unique-ish hashes, 4 letters long. They can be characters or letters, and they'll show up here. And so from that, we want to be able to use that data to get information about what's going on. So what I can also do is I can look at our journal. We have a journal that tracks these transactions, and I can specify the transaction view, and then I can specify either a count of, say, 5, or I could specify the specific transaction ID with a -t. So I'll list that here. We can see 5 of them, and indeed, if we scroll back up a little bit, you can see that ID 214, which is here, is equivalent to what has just been reported from our run. So now what we can do is we can take that transaction that we just did and we can act upon our system by using transaction IDs. Additionally, we can also use the run ID as a resource management component as well. For both the up and the destroy action, we can actually use these IDs, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So to point that out originally, one thing you do need to do is, if you're going to use this from the run database, which is the basic database that has all that transaction data in it, you need to enable it. And to enable it, you would do a change in the linchpin configuration. And that's just setting this value here, use RunDB for actions. If you do not do this, and you can see that it's listed there, it will basically just use the PinFile, which is the standard way to provision. It will also support the run ID option, but transactions will not work. They're RunDB specific in terms of the up and the destroy. Okay, so we've got that enabled. And what I want to do now is I'm going to actually take that transaction that we just did a moment ago, and that would be transaction ID 214 here as we listed, and I'm going to destroy the dummy components that we saw earlier. So if I do a linchpin -vvv destroy, and I just specify the transaction ID 214 like this, it will actually go ahead and destroy both the dummy and the dummy new resources that were created in that previous step. And you can see there it goes with dummy new, and in a moment it will destroy the dummy resource as well. Okay, so it's completed, and if we do a little checking up on this, we can see that if we do a little printout, we can see the transaction ID 215, and they correspond here. But what you'll also notice is that transaction ID 214 is equivalent also, and that's important to note. The up transaction was used as the down transaction. Now you could have done this simply by just running linchpin destroy and specifying the targets like this. Or we could have specified, and this is another way to do it, we can specify a single target with its run ID. So if we did run ID for dummy, we could use this one. This one. So 124. And that would actually destroy the dummy target. Now, if we didn't specify the run ID, it would look through the database and it would find the most recent transaction that was a up action, and it would destroy that specific thing. So in this case, it's going to look for the run ID that's associated with the dummy target, and it would destroy it. So that's what it's going to do here, and you can see that it didn't use a run ID, but it actually found one and then destroyed that one. But this is all done via the PinFile, so it doesn't actually have any dynamic data. So let's expand our experiment here and move to some more complex templates and things like that. So if we did a template like this, let me pull up my virtual machine manager, sweet, because we're going to do some libvirt stuff. When I run this here, it's going to provision 2 nodes, and it's libvirt.mi stands for multi-instance, nothing special here. But what you can see is there's a template data option. That template data actually provides the unique data that will generate this PinFile component. So we use the PinFile, but it's actually going to generate unique data. So if we change this data to, say, the cloud image, they're the source, it could be something different. And it might generate a different PinFile structure. And so we want to take that PinFile structure and use it in destroying it, but we don't want to use the one that we're doing here. We want to use one based upon the run database so we don't have to remember it. So I'm going to provision these while we wait. It'll take about 2 minutes to do this. And then we'll see 2 nodes show up. And I'll show you that here at the end of the provision. So there's one node. It's just waiting for it to get its IP. And there it is. And now we're going to be working on the second node. Okay, there's the second node, and in just a moment it'll give us a report, and that's what we're after. Great, so it's just about done here, and there it is. And we can see that there is indeed 2 nodes, and if I just do a list of the nodes, you can see that they're listed here, and I got transaction ID 217. So if I forgot the data that I used, and I didn't keep it, or I just didn't really want to figure out all the different components of a particular transaction, I can just destroy them by telling linchpin to do that. So we'll do that here. We'll just do a destroy, and we'll just specify the transaction ID 217. And so it's going to go through and destroy those 2 nodes now for us automatically. Now you notice I didn't put any PinFile in there. I didn't put any transaction data. It just looked that up in the RunDB because we have the flag on. And now it's destroying them. It just destroyed one already, and the second one is now gone. And destroy is a lot faster than provision. But if we look at that query again for our verse, we can see that it actually has indeed deleted them. So let me show you kind of just a really quick one more thing about this, is then transactions, we can actually specify that the transaction ID that we're after. So if we were interested in 218 and transaction ID 217, we could just report those and see the comparison. And indeed, here's the up action and here's the destroy action that are corresponding. And so this actually gives us the ability to see kind of an overview of everything. The benefit of this is now I can do up and destroy transactions without knowing all of the details of the specific data that I had started with. So say it's been up running for a week. It just gives us this ability now to destroy it by just looking up the run ID or storing that run ID somewhere and then bringing it back when we're ready to destroy. So that's the end of the presentation. Nothing crazy here, but it's been fun talking to you. This is Clint Savage signing off.